dreams of yours are worth fighting for and what needs to end for them to be realized? Hi, I'm River. I'm a queer astrologer and tarot reader, and I ask these questions today because we're at a pivotal moment in time in which the planet of our dreams and ideals, Neptune, is going to be meeting up with the planet of limits and restrictions, Saturn. Now, if you follow astrology at all, I'm sure you've been hearing the chatter about what this conjunction could mean and what it means for these planets to be in the sign of Aries. Now, before we get into the energy of these planets and the energy of Aries itself, I just want to preface this by saying, yes, this is a really big, pivotal moment in time in which a lot of things could change, both collectively and as individuals. Even though this is a new moment in history, it has echoes of things that we've experienced before. In your own life, you've already gone through Saturn transits. You've reached points where you've hit a hard limit, where you've been restricted in some way or forced to follow tradition, maybe break against rules of what you define your life to be. And you've already gone through Neptune transits, moments in which you are chasing or following after a dream only to have it dissolve and fade away. Maybe moments where you feel out of body and disconnected, or also periods where you feel more connected to humanity than ever and just in awe of the beauty of being alive. And in history, there has been countless times, where our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors have gone through a lot of hardship. And so I say this as just not to get so caught up with the astrology of the moment and get so overwhelmed that in a sense you give up, which can be very like Neptunian feel, right? When we're getting overwhelmed by all of it, that we just become disconnected and find it easier to just fall into escapism. So as you're listening to this, if you're in a moment, maybe like a panic state or just worried about the future, it's okay to pause and come back to this later. Or maybe it's just not for you to learn about this, but I do hope that this video can be a comfort, because when you can understand deeper what the symbolism of these planets mean and how it might interact with you and the world around you, you can better prepare yourself. So let's begin with talking about what the meaning of Aries is. So, Aries is the energy of the warrior, but it's not the obedient foot soldier. Like, Aries has a youthful impulsiveness. So, you can imagine like how you were as a teenager and thinking like if somebody told you no, maybe that would make you want to do it even more. In Aries, there's this energy of like, fuck around and find out, or like, let's just do it anyways. Like, it's not really looking at, like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing and then I'm gonna do it perfectly, or the results are going to happen exactly as I think they're going to do. It's almost like it is like taking the action before you even have fully thought it out, which is very different than the Saturnian energy, which is like Saturn isn't always like no, it's almost like a not now or not yet. Sometimes it is never, but oftentimes it's a not yet because, like I said before, it's like your skills, your resources, the things that you need to build up first before you get to that point. But Aries energy is very like, I'm going to do it anyways. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try because I'm here and why not? Like, there is something with the Aries energy of the moment where you'll be feeling it, this impulsiveness building up in your body, where you feel like you've got to take that risk. You've got to just jump in and do it, and why not? Like, because also thinking about Aries, all of this Aries energy is coming after all of the Piscean energy that we had before. And Pisces energy is a lot more slow, it's passive, it's really hyper aware of all of the feelings of the people around them. And oh, if I do this, then what if? And there's a lot of like wishy-washiness. And now it's coming to that point of taking the jump taking the jump for the things that, taking the jump for our dreams. Think that there is a new dream forming within you, forming in the collective, this what if, like a what if could be. And because it is Neptune, that dream, the vision is going to be huge. And so we're taking that as, that guiding star right now. Like, what dream is forming within you that you have this desire to reach for, even though it feels like completely impossible? Like, what would happen if you took steps to achieve that? But bringing back in the Saturn element, which is really important, because the thing that I find interesting about this transit with Neptune and Saturn in Aries versus how it was within Pisces is, in Pisces, the Saturn part came at the end of Neptune's cycle through Pisces, right? Whereas now we are seeing Saturn at the beginning of Neptune's 13-year journey. So the very first 2 years of this, with Saturn's influence, that's the part where the realistic element is going to be added. Like, okay, this is the dream that I have. Neptune, Saturn, what are the realistic steps I could do to achieve that? Like, Saturn is very the everyday grind. What can I do every single day? Like, if I, for example, want to be fluent in Creole, what do I need to do every single day so that in 5 years' time, I'm going to be speaking like a native, right? Like, I can't imagine that I'm going to have that dream and then take no steps towards it and it's going to happen, right? Or like, I want society to look this certain way. I want us to have these freedoms and be able to express ourselves wholly. But I'm just sitting at home feeling so overwhelmed by the state of the world that I take no action towards it, right? With Saturn's influence too, there's some old dream or vision of yours that's reached its end. And it's now dying off, it's withering away. Like, maybe those dreams are going to be the nourishment for the soil of where something new is blooming, but they really are drastically changing. Something within you is dying off now to be born anew, right? Because you can't have all these competing visions and all of these things that we're trying to do. Like, oftentimes I feel like, at the beginning of the year, we set all of these goals, but if you set 50 goals and you try to do them all, you end up having nothing done. And this is also too where I want to remind, like, with the Aries energy, like, it's swift and it's fast and it's direct, but it's also short lasting. And motivation, excitement, even anger, it can only take you so far. And that's where the Saturn part of, like, building those habits to have it be something that you do day in and day out. So if you have a journaling practice at all, like, write down now, like, start to write down, what are your dreams? What are your hopes for the future? What were your past ones, or like the ones that you feel like are fading away? And then actually, what are the necessary steps that you need to take towards that thing? And Aries energy is very independent. It likes to do things on its own. And so there is that part of, like, I'm not going to wait for other people to join me. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And that can be great. But also to remember that you don't have to do these things alone. You can find an accountability partner. You can find someone, like, if you want to be more involved in a political cause or a movement, it's not like, you don't have to start everything over. You can look at the wisdom of the past and decide how to move from that. So the transit for Neptune in Aries is 13 years roughly, and the transit for Saturn in Aries is about 2.5. So we have a long time, especially for Neptune, to understand what this sign and placement means in our lives. But if you want a little bit of insight about what could be coming up for you, take a look back to what was happening in your life around March 30th of last year until about October 22nd, as well as the time period from May 24th to September 1st. So you can see some of those dates are interacting, in which Neptune and Saturn were both in Aries. Another insight you could look at is where Aries falls in your chart. So, for example, let's say that Aries is in your seventh house. Maybe when Neptune first went to Aries, you start to realize that you have a new dream forming, maybe an ideal or a hope that you want for your relationship. And so, as this dream is starting to come into view with Saturn's influence there, you're realizing that, okay, if I actually want to start a family, that means in reality, I need to start planning, budgeting my money. Maybe I need to improve my health. I have to sit down and talk to my partner about what that means. Or maybe you're seeing that the person you're with is not the ideal partner that you want in a relationship. And so maybe there's a harder talk that needs to be taking place. But perhaps you sort of let that dream pass and you pushed away the responsibility of actually having these difficult talks or planning these things out in your life. Now that Neptune and Saturn have returned, that dream is coming into vision again, right? And Saturn is there saying, okay, you really need to get responsible about these things that you want in your life if you actually want them to happen. And it's like the question I had at the beginning of this: what dreams are worth fighting for, and what must end in order for them to be realized? So that's just one little example of how Saturn and Neptune might show up in your life. Of course, it's going to be in many different houses, so it'll be affecting all of us a little different, especially if these planets are making any kind of aspects to planets in your natal chart. So that is it for today's chat on Saturn and Neptune in Aries. If you'd like to learn more, you can book a natal chart reading with me at byjoveastrology.com. And also, I'd love to know down below in the comments how the themes of Saturn and Neptune in Aries are playing out in your life. See you next time.